Well, hello again folks. I've got something completely different today. I'm going to talk about these things. And you may not have seen one before. It's actually a zip drive. It's to do with computers, obviously. The situation is that I was sorting my attic out in the workshop, the attic in the workshop up above me. And I found a box of old computer bits and I thought I'll have a look and sort it out and chuck some of it away. And I found these two zip drives which I haven't used for many years. And I decided to test them out, and I found that one of them still worked with Windows 10. The other one is obviously faulty, it doesn't work. And I was about to crack it open and break it up and throw it away. And I thought, well, why not just do a little video showing people what's inside it and also talking a little bit about it, because they weren't that widespread. So without further ado, here we go. Well, the first floppy disks to arrive were the so-called 8-inch floppy disks. Not many people will have seen these. I've never seen one. They're a very low storage capacity. The very first ones only stored about 80 kilobytes of data, but the later ones did store up to 500. They were soon replaced by this one, which is the 5¼ inch floppy. This one could store up to 360 kilobytes of data, and the reason they were called floppies is, as you can see, they were very flexible and floppy, and that's why they're called a floppy. So these were mainly used, these started to come into use in the domestic home on the early PCs, but they weren't that good. Our first computer was a BBC Micro, and I wanted a floppy drive with it because you had to use tape cassettes originally, and I bought this Crumana dual disk drive which used these 5¼ inch floppies. And I'll show you inside like how complex it is. This is a twin version. I'll take the top off. And you can see inside it's quite a complex device. You've got two drives here, and these are the same drives that would be fitted inside internally in a computer. If you bought a computer with a floppy drive in, you would get one of these actual drives in that computer. This is just an external drive assembly with basically two drives in. Or you get your floppy, you just pop it in the little slot in the front there, click it in place and turn the little handle, and away it would go and whir away and work. And you could do the same on the other side, but as you can see they are very complicated. Well, the next floppy to arrive was the 3½ inch one. These were much more reliable, and obviously they're not as floppy. Now even today's computers don't often have these in. It's very rare to find. I think you have to buy it as an extra if you wanted a floppy drive. You can buy external ones. These were a revelation after the old papery ones with a plastic case. The early ones of these stored about 720 kilobytes of data, whereas the later ones would store up to 1440 kilobytes of data, which were the ones common in use. The only problem with this of course was that you needed so many of them. For example, if you wanted to install Windows, say Windows 3.1 in the early days, it came on 42 of these disks, and you can imagine how long it took to install it. You'd pop one in and a little message would come up the screen and it would say like, it would read it, and then it would ask you to insert the second disc, and you put that in, and then it would say take out disc 2, insert disc 3, and so on, right up to disc 42. And each one took a while to read the information off, and you can imagine how boring it got after you got to disc number 42. And that was if it loaded properly, because if a problem occurred early on, the whole amount that it stored would be corrupt and you'd have to start all over again. So they weren't that practical, but they were certainly better than the early 5¼ inch ones. Now I've got a disk drive here to show you what these were like. This is a little floppy drive that they used. These were quite common in the early PCs, domestic PCs. This is one that was fitted internally in a computer. I'll take the top off, you can see. There are some electronics underneath in there, but I won't bother taking that off. And then you just pop your floppy in like that. They were quite useful, and down it go, and then when you press the little button it would pop out again. And they were used for quite a few years actually, but the limitation was the amount of data you could store on them. And this is where the zip drive came in. It was a revelation when the first zip drive arrived, because whilst the old-fashioned floppy would store 1.44 megabytes of data, the zip drive would store 100 megabytes of data. Of course you needed a new drive unit such as this one. They did make a version that you could put into a computer as well, but the first ones were an external drive like this. basically the storage capacity of this was fantastic after the getting used to the floppy drive. I mean, this would store the equivalent of about 70 of these. The amount of information on there, you'd get 70 of these on this zip drive, so you can tell what a difference it would make. They were never really that successful. They didn't actually rival the floppy disk in terms of the amount that were sold, and they were plagued with problems, to be honest. When I bought this first one, I remember I was so delighted with it, I went and bought a second one to use in the business. The problem with the zip drive was that they were notoriously unreliable. They did suffer from a thing called click of death, which sounds horrible, but if you heard it and you got your precious data on there, you were most concerned, I can tell you, because what happened was the click of death, it happens in hard drives as well. It's where the read-write head is trying to access the data and it can't do it for some reason or other, and it keeps clicking backwards and forwards, and you get this click, 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 like that. The problem with these drives is that it could be a fault in the actual disk itself, or it could be in the drive. And whichever one it was in, it could damage the other. So for example, if you had a duff disk that was causing the problem, by putting it in a zip drive, it could damage the zip drive and then it wouldn't work on any of the disks. And the other way around, if there was a fault on the actual disk drive, putting a disk in it, a decent disk, the drive would damage the disk, so you never really knew where you were. At the time, as I said, they were a revelation. But they didn't last long, because the thing that actually killed them really, I suppose, was this. The compact disc, especially the one for data. When the CDR arrived, this would hold like 650 to 700 megabytes of data. Obviously, that basically killed off the zip drive overnight. Although the first ones obviously you couldn't record on, programs started arriving on CDs and later on DVDs. And then of course when they brought out recordable CDRs, then the problem was solved, wasn't it? The company that made this, they did go on to make a 250 megabyte version and also even a 750, but they were not that popular and they were soon discontinued in favour of the CD. And of course the CD itself has now been made obsolete for saving information by these little things, the thumb drives. As these thumb drives, they stored a huge amount of data and they were very compact. This one in particular was an early one, it only does 4 gigabytes. But that 4 gigabyte disk would store the equivalent of 2,800 of these floppy disks. So you can tell the difference in it. So basically, zip disk didn't stand much of a chance after these sort of things came out. I'll just show you briefly the zip drive working so you can see what it does. There's not much to see actually. Well, I've just plugged this one in. This is the good one that actually works, or I think it works. You just pop the little power cord in there and you'll see the little light comes on in the front. And then you get your disc and pop in, it should, the little orange read light comes on. I haven't got it connected to a computer, so it's not going to do anything. And then to remove the disc, you just press that and the disc should shoot out like that. Read like that. There we go. So that's the working one. Now this other one I've got here, I'll just plug this one in and you'll see this one won't. I pop the disc in. The lights are on, but it's not actually doing anything, and if I press the button the disc won't come out at all. Through the back there's a little lever and then the disc will pop out. Well, I'll just crack this one open and show you what's inside. It's not very interesting, I shouldn't think, there's not much in it, but if I can get it open. Whoops. I do hate these things, I always say screw them together. There's the drive, that little front plate comes off like that, look. There you can see in all its glory, there's not much in it, is there? Just pop the little drive in, look, that goes in like that. And there's the little lever on the back that you can release it, because this one won't work electrically, so, but you can see basically what's in it. It's nowhere near as complicated as that 5 1/4 inch one I showed you earlier, is it? There's a bit of electronics on the back, look. Interesting that they've got a transparent case so you can see the workings of it. That's quite unusual, but it was quite a novelty at the time. Well, that's about it, folks. The 100 megabyte zip drive. Rest in peace. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.